Hey y'all, my name's Jay Wilson. I'm your favorite technical success manager in EMEA. I'm back again recording a video for the Domo Dojo. This time we are going to take a look at building a recursive data flow. Not super exciting because obviously there are KB articles that show you how to do this and people have talked about it ad nauseum on the dojo. But what we're going to do differently today is we are going to create a recursive data flow that outputs a web form. Now you cannot control the data type of a data flow in the UI, so we're going to have to take a look at using the Java CLI to alter the definition of our data flow. And that's what we're going to cover today. So again, my name's Jay Wilson. I am trying to create content for the Domo Dojo on a regular basis. If you're not in it, you can check it out under dojo.domo.com. Now, what I'm also super excited to let you guys know about is the fact that there is a page dedicated to our EMEA users. If you're not using the dojo, get in there. Sorry for the shameless plug, but I have to do it. This is the place for people to exchange ideas and connect with developers in the global community around the world, or in this instance, specifically our community in EMEA. What I'm super excited to let you guys know about is that we are starting to do a user group, which is going to be an online meeting where, again, you get your chance to exchange ideas. But added bonus, we're going to try to pull in product managers from the Domo team to talk about what's on the product roadmap. And then we're going to have people share their stories from in the trenches about best practices and what works really well for them. So I hope this is going to be a content-rich place for you to check out. Enough with the shameless plugs. Let's get to the use case. So I had a client come to me and say, hey Jay, look, I got this problem. I pulled my data into Domo, great. And then I use a web form to clean up that data. And I'm like, yeah, everybody does that. So for example, I have here this web form that maps the value Germany to group 1 and maps the value USA to group 2. But what's different is I then create a PDP automation process that will create PDP policies based off of this data. Very cool. Not going to cover that in this video. What I am going to cover, though, is their problem, which was sometimes a new market shows up. And we've got people in Domo accessing the data, and I want this new value to automatically get added to my web form. And I need to know when that value has been added so I can map it to the correct value again in this web form. So I basically need an alert. And I said, oh yeah, to automatically update a web form, you need to build a recursive data flow. And she said, check, I know, but I don't know how to change a data flow to output a web form instead of a normal Domo data flow dataset. And I said, okay, let's take a closer look. So this is their data flow, right? And she says right here, this is the problem. I can build a recursive query that stacks the data and does all the things, but I can't change this output to be the same as that input. And again, that's what we're going to do in the Java CLI. Let's get a quick preview going here. So quick preview. Let's get a quick preview going here so we can see what all happens. All right, the general gist of it is, in this stream of data, I want to create a list of just the unique regions from my data set, from my transactional data set. So that's this last column here. Then I'm pulling in the data from my, my web form. Fine. Now I'm going to do a full outer join to combine old data and new data onto the same row. That's an outer join, and I want to keep both sides of the join. Now I'll define old data as cases where the group name is populated, so where the group name is not null. I will define new data as cases where the group name is null and where the user region from this table is populated. So it's a composite or two filter criteria. Cool. Now I want to be able to create an alert on group name is I don't want to do an alert on null, so I'll do an alert on where the value is replace me. I'll set a static value. Anytime I see null, replace it with replace me. I do an append row, and so now this is my data from the web form, and this is my new data with the group name mapped to replace me. That's what I want my data flow to be. Cool, cool, cool. How do I go about this? How do I use the Java CLI to edit the definition of this data flow? Well, first off, how do I get to the Java CLI? To get to the Java CLI, you will go to Admin, Tools and Downloads, and we're looking for the Domo CLI. In order to use a Domo CLI, you have to have Java installed, and you have to have some sort of a text editor. And the one I use is Visual Studio Code. So there is a little bit of a setup process there. I'm not going to walk you through that, but I will show you the code for working in the Java CLI. So here we go. To launch the Java CLI, you will type java-jar domo-util.jar. That will launch the CLI. And what you're looking for is you want to see that you're on the latest build of the CLI. If you're not on the latest build of CLI, don't ask me why you're having problems. My answer will be make sure you're on the latest build first. Okay. Now, I've launched the CLI, but I haven't told it how to interact with Domo or what instance of Domo to interact with. I need to connect to Domo. And you might be saying, Jay, how do I connect if I don't know what you already know? And I'll say, well, you use the help menu. So type in help, and help will make a list of every command that the Java CLI can do. And there are so many commands. Read through them, every last one of them. It will inspire you with the sheer amount of automation you can do with the Java CLI. It's actually one of the reasons why this is my favorite utility. Now, of interest to us is the connect command. And you might say, but Jay, what do I do with the connect command? Well, you type help connect, and it will tell you what to do. So here, I want to connect to an instance of Domo. How do I authenticate? These are the two ways to authenticate, and we're going to take a look at connecting with an access token. I'd say that's probably the most common way to do it. How do I get an access token? Well, to generate an access token, you again go to you then go to Admin, and then we're going to go to Security, and then we're going to generate an access token using generate access token. Guys, if you pay attention to nothing, pay attention to this. This access token is a username and password-ish that gives the person with this access token access to the same rights as the person, Jay Wilson, in Domo. So if you were to take a screenshot of this right now, you have admin rights to custom EMEA. Do not save your username and password, or rather, do not save this access token where people can see it. Like I just did. But you do need to record this access token someplace, because after you leave this screen, you'll never see it again. So like if I navigate and come back, it tells me there's an access token called delete me, but I can't see the value. So it's really important that you do record it someplace. Just don't share it with people. All right. So in the Java CLI, I'm now going to connect to the server custom.emea.domo.com using Jay Wilson's access token, and now I am authenticated in the Java CLI as Jay Wilson. Great. Now, first thing I want to do is I want to get information about my data flows, and I can use the command list data flow. Now, the thing to understand about the Java CLI is it is a very flexible thing, and each of these commands can do one or several different things. List data flow will make a list of every data flow. Now, I'm not interested in a list of every data flow. I'm only interested in a list or information about a specific data flow. So I'm going to pass a data flow ID as a flag, and let's see what that does. Well, first off, what is the data flow ID? The data flow ID is always going to be found in the URL. Sorry, that was fast clicking, but that's going to be found in the URL of my data flow, which I'm just going to put up here at the top. So in this case, 533. What's really cool about Domo is every object in Domo that you can interact with, whether it's a user, a PDP policy, or a data flow, has an ID associated with it so that Domo knows the thing. But if I can take that ID and interact with the APIs to alter the definition of that ID, I could theoretically change a web form to output a change a data flow to output a web form instead of a data flow dataset, which is our goal. So let's see. If I do list data flow -I, 533, what does that give me? Okay, this is exciting. Let's take a closer look. Select columns. Ooh, replace string. I recognize that guy. Do a full outer join. I recognize that guy. Do something unique. Okay. This block of string is the definition of the data flow that Domo has. It's how Domo knows what to do with data flow 533. Very cool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save it to a file instead of printing it to page. So I saved my data flow to -f to the file df533.json, which I can now find here. Let's apply some formatting. Guys, are you as excited about this as I am? This is like, this is cool. I don't know. I think it's cool. I get excited. Now let's go up to the top here. Let's see what we got. All right, so the name of my data flow is Recursive Webform Altered. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to call it Altered. I'm going to call it Altered so that if I successfully pass this JSON file up to Domo, then I know it's been altered because the name's been changed. And let's scroll through here. There's a section called Actions, and I do things like load data from Vault. I do things like select values and choose what columns to keep. I do create unique regions, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. What I'm looking for is publish to Vault. Here we go. Publish. What are you publishing? I am publishing this dataset, so that's the dataset ID, and its type is dataflow, and its name is delete me. Let's be cheeky and just change it from dataflow to webform. And instead of outputting something called delete me, which is a terrible name, don't do that, we're going to call it JW, what did I call it? PDP lookup recursive. Okay, that's the name that I want my data set to be, and I'm going to copy that up here under the name of the tile under publish to Vault. Now, let's talk about this GUID. That's the data set ID that I'm outputting. How do you know, Jay? Because I'm smart. No, because if I go to my Jesus, stop. If I go to my dataflow 533 and I look at the output, it's currently outputting a dataset called delete me, whose GUID, whose dataset ID is 9385. But I don't want it to output a dataset with the ID 9385. I want it to output a dataset with the ID this. because that's what a recursive query does. So I'm going to change the output to the input. And I'm going to press save. Now what I've done is I've designed the new ETL that I want to run, but I haven't sent that definition up to Domo. How do I send that definition up to Domo? Let's look under help and see. Here, there is a command called set dataflow properties. Let's see if that'll work for us. The answer is yes, obviously. Set help. Let's do help first. Set dataflow properties. Aha. Now, I can set the name of a data flow. Not interesting. This, however, I can change the definition of a data flow by passing a JSON file. So set data flow properties -i533 using the definition file df_533.json. I can't look. I can't look. If it worked. If it worked. It worked. It worked. Because, remember I said I changed the name to altered. And look at that. The output is now a web form. Oh, guys. Now it says it only has 2 rows because the input and the input are the same, but that's because I haven't run my data flow yet. Now I could use the UI to run my data flow, but I'm not a noob. I am a Domo automation enthusiast. I know how to use a Java CLI. I wonder, can I execute a data flow using the Java CLI? Can I do automation in the Java CLI? Are you guys like holding your breath like I am? Hold your breath. Here we go. Guys, what is this little fella? Dataset run now. Oh, no, not dataset. That fella. Data flow run now. Ooh. All I have to do is pass it the ID. Dataset run. Not dataset. Stop saying dataset. Data flow run now. 533. Dash. Get it together. I'm so excited I can't type. Whew. Okay. I come back to here, I press refresh. Oh, I bet you want to see the results, but I'm not going to show you yet. I'm going to tell you something that you need to know that not a lot of people understand. Okay. Notice here, when I did dataflow run now, I executed a post against the API under customemia.domo.com/API. Now, if you go to our documentation, developer.domo.com, and if you take a look at our API reference guide and you look at any of the APIs, you will notice that all of the documentation points you to api.domo.com, not your instance. Excuse me. Not your instance.api/API. Here's the thing. The stuff in developer.domo.com is owned by Domo Product, and Domo Product guarantee that all of the queries and stuff that you run against developer.domo.com will always work. It will always work, and they will always support you if it does not work. But the APIs under your instance.domo.com/API, they can change them, they can update them, they can add functionality because those are considered private. And that's why the Java CLI is so cool. The Java CLI gives you access to stuff that is not under developer.domo.com. It gives you access to automating things that beyond what is under developer.domo.com, and you can see that reflected in the APIs that we're hitting. Short version of the story, use the Java CLI because it can do more stuff. At Domo, when I get asked, hey Jay, I need you to solve this automation problem, my first port of call is the Java CLI and not developer.domo.com because I have much richer tools in the Java CLI. This is the Jay Wilson message. This disclaimer or whatever. This is not necessarily the views of Domo the company. This is just my opinion, my recommendation as an individual. Okay, so that's why I always use the Java CLI and that's the difference, the way I understand it anyway, between what you see under customemia.domo.com/API versus developer.domo.com. Okay, moving on swiftly. You wanted to see if my recursive query actually worked. You want me to click this button, and what we expect is we expect there to be a row of data where replace me, oh, it worked. That's exciting. It worked. Previously, there were only 2 rows. Now we have 3 rows, which were added via a recursive query. And now I can go in here, I can edit my web form because it's a web form, not a data set. And I can say, oh, this is group 3. Now, before I do that, I'm going to remind you, do the smart thing. Build an alert where the group name is equal to replace me. Now I've set an alert that will let me know. Okay, I'm not actually going to set an alert. I don't want to know. I'm going to create an alert that says, hey, let me know when this data has been updated. That way, anytime a new value appears, I know to just update my recursive query, and it's beautiful. And yeah, that's it in a nutshell. Let's roll back and tie it up with a bow, because we covered a lot. So we started with our beautiful recursive query here. Okay. We started with a recursive query, and the problem that everyone has is that I can create a data flow that combines my lookup table with my raw data, but what I cannot do is output a new version of the web form. Why? Because there's no way to say, click, change this data flow to a web form. That's not possible in our UI. So how do we work around it? We said, hey, we're going to use the Java CLI to edit the definition of the 533 data flow. How did we do that? We started by launching the Java CLI in terminal. And we have to be in the right folder. Okay, we started by launching the Java CLI, and I said if you're not on the latest build, make sure you're on the latest build. Why? Because they're constantly adding stuff to the Java CLI and expanding the range of tools and things that it can do. Cool. The first thing we had to do is we had to connect to our instance of Domo. How do you connect to your, or what do you need? You need to have your server name, and you need to have an access token. How do you generate an access token? We went to admin, security, access tokens, and then we generated an access token. And the important thing to remember here is this is your username and password. So don't share it on the internet. And if you accidentally do share it on the internet, revoke the access token. Cool. So we were able to connect to Domo, and then we used a series of commands to interact with our APIs. The first one we looked at was list data flow and save the data flow to a JSON file. We then altered that data flow, and most importantly, we changed the output data source from type data flow to type web form, and that's what made it recursive. Well, no, changing the GUID to the other data set is what made it recursive. Then to update Domo, we set data flow properties. I'm sorry, I didn't write this down. we set the Dataflow properties to the content of this JSON file. And then we got a little exciting and we said instead of running the Dataflow via the GUID, we used, what was it, Dataflow -run -now -i533. That, in a nutshell, is how you create a recursive query that outputs a web form. My name's Jay Wilson. I answered this question because somebody in the Domo dojo asked me. And if you've got a question and you want an answer in a long form video response like this, reach out to me on the dojo, check out our EMEA user group. Thanks so much, and y'all have a great day.